have. Right. Okay. Welcome everyone to another installment of Admissify's sessions in this COVID period, where we try and bring you as much information as we possibly can, inform you about the scope of study abroad in these sort of uncertain times. We have with us Ritika from Singapore, who is very, very highly qualified, and it's an honor for us to have her and her experience with us today. So you guys are lucky, and you're in for a bit of a treat today. So how are you, firstly?
Great.
Enjoy. What's the weather like?
I would like to tell everybody it's Rahul's birthday, so we can all just wish him happy birthday.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. I'll be blushing. I'll be red by the end of this. Right. So what's the weather like there? What is it like? How's the feeling?
It's very good weather. The weather is actually very good here. But yeah, the feeling is also very good. So let's just get...
It's a very quintessential thing for us English to ask about the weather.
Oh, it's nice weather here. As opposed to India, I think it's very hot in India, in the northern parts of India. It's very hot in northern parts of India, but it's a very pleasant weather in Singapore.
Fantastic. Likewise over here, we only get 4 months of nice weather here, and it's we're lucky we're in one of those days. The sun is shining. I think it's picnic time.
Yeah.
So
and hopefully, fingers crossed, everybody can go out and enjoy the weather very soon.
Absolutely. Our just on that point, our guidance got released. An updated guidance got released from the British government here. We're allowed to be out with 6 friends now. So the number is 6. No more, no less. You're allowed to meet outdoors with 6 friends.
That's very nice. So you can go to Hyde Park with 6 of your friends.
Absolutely. That's on the card shortly.
That's on the card, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, I was I thought we might just have some niceties first while the numbers come up, and there's more people watching. Of course, like I don't know how many people know or not know, but aside from our live viewers, this gets watched by thousands of people afterwards as well. So we'll try and keep it clear and concise so that you guys listening to it afterwards don't get too bored. I know that my first session was 1.5 hours. Can you imagine listening to me for 1.5 hours? I feel sorry for those people already. But okay, look, I wanted to bring in a little bit about your qualifications, right? And sort of
be nice to me.
Sorry?
Be nice to me.
I think your qualifications speak so highly of themselves. No one could be not nice, even if they wanted to. So, so I wanted to go through your education journey a little bit, so that everybody can get to know a little bit about how your journey evolved, what it is that you're doing now, what it is you've been doing before, and so on. So, I mean, I would probably just start off with some bullet points, if that's okay, and then you can tell us how you went from spot to spot, if that's okay. So you're a graduate from St. Stephen's College in Delhi University, of course. You're a former lecturer in the economics department in Delhi University itself as well, and that was for over 7 years. So we have a lot of wisdom at hand, and you've done a master's in applied economics, and that was from Nanyang Technology University in Singapore, so NTU, Technological University, and you're now a research scholar, and that's at NUS, again in economics. So it's been so you're the economics guru, and we are lucky to have you. But yeah, so how did that journey come about?
Yeah, so okay, so let's just get started. So basically, I've done economics all my life. So I think more than 15 years now I've been doing economics. So yeah, economics is in my blood right now. So yeah. So
brilliant. We can see that from all of those economics accolades. Yeah.
Totally. So okay. So basically, my journey started, as you all know, I did my graduation from St. Stephen's College, which is, again, most of you know, it's one of the most renowned college in Delhi University. So the faculty there is top notch and everything, and it started building, and the faculty inspired me to go into all the research and academics career. So I got an opportunity to widen my horizon and become a adjunct lecturer in the economics department in different colleges in Delhi University. So I've taught in colleges like Hindu College, Jesus and Mary College, St. Stephen's College. So I've taught over a period of 7 years, I've taught in like many colleges under Delhi University. Again, all economics, taught many undergraduate subjects in economics. So, but okay, when I was teaching and interacting with students, I realized that there is something more in college, and just apart from academics, there is something more to college. So, which is basically broadening your horizon, broadening your outlook. Means basically not just getting into books. Books is very important. Obviously, you need good grades to get into opportunities for future opportunities. But there is more to that. So that is basically widening your horizon. So I started contemplating, what should I do for my master's? Should I do it in India? Which also, again, I had opportunities to do it in India also. I'm not saying that the universities are not good in India, but I wanted to basically broaden my horizon. I basically met many individuals, talked to many friends and families, got in touch with education consultant also. Then I got an opportunity to apply to Nanyang Technological University, for where I did my master's in applied economics. We call econs here.
Yeah. Okay, so I love how India has so many shorts. When I come to India, I learn all of these abbreviations for things. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So it's basically master's in applied econs. I did. It was a 1-year program, and before entering into this program, I did a whole lot of research. What subject I want, everything. So I did a lot of, because there are a lot of opportunities and there are a lot of courses that are available right now. So you have to narrow down what course you are actually interested in. So that's what I did. I did a 1-year course from Nanyang Technological University. So it was basically a 3-trimester course. So for 4 months each. So 3 trimester, which was very, very educative. So it was one of the best education experience that I could ask for. Then again, one thing led to another, and I further got encouraged and motivated to pursue my dream, that was doing my PhD in economics. So I applied to National University of Singapore, and I got through it. And then right now I'm doing my PhD in economics from NUS, and hopefully I'll finish it soon, and I'll share my knowledge with the same platform.
We can then call you Dr. Ithika next time.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure you'll be going with flying marks, and you have to write a thesis, don't you, near the end?
Yeah.
So how is that coming along?
Good, very good. In fact, so all this circuit. Okay, the lockdown here is known as circuit breaker, so gave me a lot of time to study at home, start working on my research. We'll get into that.
Slightly later. Yeah. Just a little off-point question, if I could ask you. Do you think that what would you say is the difference that you felt in the education when you went from, obviously St. Stephen's is a brilliant college of DU, Admissify itself has done many seminars in lots of DU colleges, the Hindu, Deshbandhu are just some of the names that I still remember from my trips over there. I'm not the best, so my apologies in advance. But how would you compare that experience to your experience at NTU?
Okay, so with due respect to all the universities in India, I would say that things are a little more practical here, as opposed to things are more theoretical in India. There's a difference. Trust me when I say this, there is a difference, because again, I've taught also for 7 years, so I know what the curriculum is like. It's more practical here. So it's not that you just have to read and give your exams. You have to write down term papers. You have to write down, they teach you softwares also for data analysis and all, because in economics we have to do that. So they teach you software also. It's
a lot more applied, isn't it? From whenever I speak to people, such as yourself and myself included, I might not have so much experience of India, but you've been a lecturer there, you've studied there at the top, your academic sort of profile outside of India and within India is absolutely top pedigree. So, and within that, I think it feels, and it's all over the country. There was an Ernst & Young study saying how lots of Indian graduates aren't suited for the job market and the jobs of the future and the opportunities of the future, even if they're in self-employment. just because there isn't a focus on how to apply the knowledge that you get when you study, as opposed to being able to apply the knowledge you're able to amass when you're out.
Exactly. So it's more applied here. And they basically time by time they teach you, they give you real-time scenarios also, and they teach you how to basically overcome it. There's a problem, how to overcome that particular problem, or if there is a research that requires a particular technique, so they teach you that also over in your coursework.
Fantastic. And the Singaporeans are very organized, aren't they, as well, in general?
Very. Trust me, it took me like a week to understand the whole scenario here, because coming from India, it takes, but it's just a matter of week. And it's a little bit trust me, very fruitful experience.
From chaos to a regime, it's be quite
exactly. And
quite a
the
change.
best part was the punctuality, like not even a minute late. And coming from India, yeah.
They see it as a sign of disrespect there, don't they? In many of the South Asian countries, that it means you haven't valued somebody else's time. I've appreciated that. That really helped me change and become better as far as my punctuality was concerned. That being said,
much more disciplined.
Yeah, well, yeah, fantastic. So, carry on, please. From your education journey, you're here now, and you're there currently. How are you finding things there at the moment?
So at the moment, things okay. I'll just go through a little bit about my experience in Singapore. So I've been in Singapore for the past 3 years now, and it's the most fulfilling experience so far. I can speak volumes about Singapore. Trust me, I can speak volumes about that.
So we are all ears.
So Singapore is one of the most welcoming. I've traveled around the world. Singapore is one of the most welcoming country, and there's no language barrier. Many people might think that Singapore, there's too much of Chinese and all. There is no language barrier. If all the education, the instruction is English. So nothing is that you need to know Chinese. Obviously, you have an edge over it, but when you say that English is the most used language here. Okay, so a degree, if you get a degree from Singapore institution, it's basically globally appreciated. It's one of the most safe and clean city, and the crime rate is very, very low, and it's exceptionally secure for an international student. Okay, I come from Delhi, which is as you all know, it's not a very safe, especially for a girl. It's not very safe, and I can roam around on the street at 2 a.m. and I can call my parents and I can say them that I'm roaming on the street at 2 a.m. and they won't be worried about it. But I can't do that in Delhi. So it's one of the most secure. It's one of the most secure country.
I think that is a very important point that you've touched upon, just quickly, because when I've been in India and when I do my counseling, I find that a lot of, especially when Indian parents want to send their girls out to study, they have a lot of reservations about, the safety of, and because of course they've lived in India and that's what they know to be, their atmosphere and their lives. But I'm glad that you can come and share a female perspective on how you feel safe abroad, because sometimes when people ask me, what is London like? Is London safe? And I cheerfully say that, it's one of the most surveyed cities in the world. And as Singapore is completely, they're completely clinical and very, very safe. But it is very important for people to I'm glad you brought that point across, because it's important for people to realize and become a little bit confident about that, because it can be people can be a bit apprehensive about that, I find.
Agreed. So I'll share a very personal experience here. So I come from a typical Delhi family, where my parents are very scared to send their daughter out. I'm a grown-up, I'm an adult, but still they are scared. Right now, today when I go to India, I have restrictions of movement in Delhi. You have to go with this person, you can't go alone and all. But here I can call, as I said, I can call them and say that I'm roaming on the street at 2 a.m. at night alone, and they won't worry about it. So that's the case. So Singapore is one of the most safe city for an international, be it a girl child, be it a boy, be it a girl. Yeah. And the universities here, they strictly prohibit ragging, be it on campus, be it off campus.
Is there such a thing as ragging? Because over here, I only discovered that there was such a thing as ragging when I came to India, and my cousins used to tell me, or somebody in India, my friends would tell me that there's such a thing as ragging. I didn't realize that there was even such a thing.
But in India, if you basically go to college, again, India, they say that they have that anti-ragging cells and everything, but it still persists. And coming from India, it's a concern. It's a concern, but it's very strict here. Even if you see somebody like a senior is even talking or misbehaving with a junior, the person who is being dragged can just go to the cell and inform, and that person will be expelled. It's to that extent they just prohibit that. They just very strictly prohibit that.
People's demeanor and behavior matter a lot. I think people are generally very, very friendly. I mean, from what I've seen everywhere in the US universities, UK universities, everywhere in Europe that I've been, I haven't unfortunately been to Singapore yet. That's on my bucket list, but no, I haven't actually.
I'll be very, very happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. As soon as I can get on a plane, we can. But the parents.
When it's safe to travel. Yeah, when it's safe to travel.
And when it's safer to travel. I think you guys are really quite far down in your lifting of your lockdown, aren't you? Like we've our third stage of lifting up the lockdown measures are going to be implemented from Monday. So
same here. It's from Tuesday here. So the circuit breaker is releasing on the 2nd of June here. So it's again releasing in 3 different phases. But in phase 1 only, like I've already received a mail from my university that my university is opening on 2nd June, obviously with some restrictions and social distancing. But if I want to go to university, I can go from 2nd June, and it's safe. It's safe to go there. I can go there.
Fantastic.
But right now there is summer vacations going on, so I don't have to go. But if I want to go and use library there or meet my supervisor, I can go there.
Fantastic, because I think you guys are the furthest ahead in that part of the world, like Singapore, South Korea. You guys are the furthest ahead in terms of recovering from this. I think Europe is behind, but India has probably not even got to the stage where it's at the peak of infection, let alone coming down yet. But I think every stage of the world is a bit different in where their progression is. So it's quite important that maybe our audience and other students get to find out how different countries are in different places at the moment.
So Singapore, I'll share it with you. My parents are not concerned about me living alone in Singapore. I'm more concerned about my parents living in India right now, to be very honest.
Absolutely.
So it's as safe to stay in Singapore. So I want to go to India because it's my summer break. My parents are saying, don't come to India because it's not safe here. Be there in Singapore, it's safer there.
Absolutely.
I don't think so. I have to say more on that.
No, absolutely. I think that speaks volumes for itself, doesn't it? Exactly, for any of the other parents that might listen afterwards that is worried about sending their children abroad, send them to safety. I think
send them to safety, exactly. Because right now India is not safe to be.
No, I've heard some crazy stories, but I think we ought not to go into that at this moment.
Not go there.
No. So how long have you been? I mean, what is your experience other than the stuff that you've shared with us so far? Is there anything else to your experience of Singapore that you might want to just add to?
So, I can basically say that I can say something about, I'll just say something about the universities here. So there are many top high-level universities here, be it the National University of Singapore, be it the Nanyang Technological University, or there's a management university known as the Singapore Management University, University of Technology and Designs. All these are basically top-notch universities which are world recognized. Many foreign universities, they also have campuses, regional campuses in Singapore, which are offering again undergrad and graduate degrees, like James Cook University. They have their campus here. SPGen, the Global Management University, the Tri-Continent Management Program, they have their campus here. Then the University of Nevada, they have their campus here. Amity University, they have their campus. Again, they provide all range of undergrad and graduate courses. Okay, let me start by saying a little bit about, I'll be a little biased towards my own university. Let me just say about,
tell us all about it.
Let me just say about my own university, that is the National University of Singapore. It is again the Singapore flagship university. It is its world ranking is 25th. The world ranking is 25, and it's Asia's #1 university. It's again according to the Times University ranking that I'm giving you right now. So it has one of the best faculties in the world, and they provide best courses. Again, I'll tell you about few specific courses. So they have, the infrastructure is again you can't even imagine what infrastructure that provides. Again, I'll tell you a very personal thing, that the COVID support. So the students, we as a student, we have to, in a portal that is provided by the university, we have to mention our daily, even if we are staying at home, there's a circuit breaker, we are not going to university, we have to write our daily temperature in that portal twice a day. Yeah, twice a day we have to do that. And we've been doing this for the past 2 months. We're not going to university, but still we are doing it.
Oh, that's very organized. Very
Very
data
organized.
is key. Data is key in these days. I think people don't appreciate that without data, you can't make the decisions which will implement everyone. In certain countries, I think probably Singapore and South Korea are way advanced of Europe in this, but then Europe would be way advanced of maybe a country in South Asia, like India or neighboring countries, because it's so hard to collect data there. Whereas over there, everybody is very keen and understands the power of data.
Yeah, and just to make this that students don't give any excuse that they don't have a thermometer to note their temperature, they actually gave each and every student a thermometer, so that they don't give an excuse that we don't have a thermometer to check our temperature at home. So that's the case. So NUS has basically 17 different schools, be it engineering, medicine, dentistry, life sciences, physical sciences, law, business school, economics. So they have like 17 different schools. So every school has their own huge department. And the famous courses are, for example, engineering and technology with the world ranking of 12th. So they offer a course which is with the world ranking of 12. So business and economics have a world ranking of 14. And computer sciences has a world ranking of 11. Law courses have a world ranking of 15, which is like very good as compared to good.
As a lawyer myself, well, I'll say that I think as far as Singapore is concerned, maritime law is exceptionally brilliant and prevalent over there in terms of postgraduate employment as well, isn't it?
Yes. So they have like very famous universities that provide, because Singapore is a port hub country. So they have many like shipping and shipping management courses. I myself took, because during summer break, you have those special terms where you can just enroll free of cost. You can enroll to those special terms. So because I wanted to do that maritime and shipping program, I enrolled myself, and I learned so much about shipping. Trust me when you say shipping. And they actually took us to a port in Singapore, which is not allowed. Yeah, you are not allowed to step out of we were in a van, a small, like a mini bus or something. We were not allowed to step out of that van, and not allowed to take our pictures also.
Oh, wow.
But
okay.
Trust me, it was an experience of a lifetime.
Oh yeah, I can imagine the vast scale of it would be incomprehensible.
Vast ships like standing there, and like the containers were being docked and undocked. It was an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah,
so yeah, you have an opportunity like that also.
So again, it's very practical. Again, very practical, very hands-on. I mean, you can see how things work, and of course, it's one of I believe Singapore is one of the easiest destinations to do business and work on the business index as well, isn't it?
Yes, so it's one of the most easiest country. Many business giants also, they have their like companies here, because it's the tax is very less here, so it has a lot of tax rebates in Singapore. So yeah, it's one of the more like very lucrative to do business here, and many startups are coming up here. So which basically gives more opportunities, more job opportunities. We'll get to the job opportunities in few seconds, in few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, with respect to COVID-19, how is that, do you think, affected your studies, or is there anything that you want to tell us in terms of where you think, how you feel it's affected education in particular? Obviously, from what you were saying earlier, it seems as though Singapore is like pretty much out of lockdown, or the circuit breaker, as you guys call it over there, is almost over, or in a very, very easy phase now. How has your education been affected at all? Or, I mean, obviously you're studying from home, but.
Yeah, I'm studying from home. So in spite of all the outbreak of the circuit breaker, my studies have not been affected by, I would say by 1% also, they've not been affected, because everything was online. We had e-learning where we used, like we've been given each and every portal, and we know that the internet and the Wi-Fi is so good here. So there was not even a single glitch of any kind. Yeah, not even a single glitch of any kind. Many universities around the world, I've heard that they've cancelled their exams and all. Me being a PhD student, so I basically, a PhD student here is a teaching assistant to the undergrad students.
Absolutely, yes.
So I was given the role of invigilating the undergrad students on a Zoom. So I was invigilating on a Zoom 70 students.
Wow.
So it's not that the exams were cancelled here. They were happening on Zoom session with all the
technology assistance.
Technology possible. So they were not allowed to cheat at all.
Fantastic.
To cheat at all.
It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, we've realized, I think, as a society, at least especially, you know, advanced or more developed countries, how much technology has helped us actually retain and continue to work as normal in these sort of unprecedented times.
Exactly. So every student was also before giving an exam, they had a trial run, so that on the day of exam, they don't have to face any problem.
Absolutely right.
The university made sure of it that the students are very comfortable in doing their online learning, as well as all their submissions were online. The books were made online. Again, I'll tell you a very personal experience. I share a lot of personal experiences. So because that's what happened with me. So I'm a Bitcoin enthusiast, and I wanted to learn something about there's a particular book that is not very easily available. So I wanted to learn something about that, and my library had it, but it was a physical book. But I can't go to college right now, so I mailed to my library and asked them if there's an ebook available, or can you make it available. Trust me when I say that within 6 hours that book was made available to me. Ebook was made available to me. Yeah, within 6 hours.
It's amazing how things are so well organized there, and how actually resources are so easily obtainable as well. I've heard of NUS's famous library and the resources they have. I mean, obviously NUS is within itself a name and a pedigree of its own, but it's glad that you verify that.
And they also made me that even if a physical book is required, that I really want for my thesis, a physical book, they'll deliver it at my place. There's a provision for that also.
Soon there'll be drones flying around sending books. You won't be able to get away without studying.
I'm using I'm basically using all my tuition fee and all these things today, learning as much as possible.
Fantastic. So other than that, in terms of postgraduate, let's maybe move on to postgraduate employment opportunities. What do you think are the best courses to study in Singapore in terms of the jobs that are available afterwards?
Okay, so basically, as I've already said, that Singapore is a business hub, so there is limitless job opportunities that are available here. So, the minimum wage, obviously, it's not a constant thing, but the minimum wage, the minimum for an international student is 3,200 SGDs, which is roughly around 1.6, 1.7 INR lakhs, 1.6, 1.7 INR a month. So this is like a minimum wage which an international student, international employee will get. So which is nice, which is fair enough, and it is basically a decent to start with. So even if you have a bachelor degree, even if after your undergrad, if you want to pursue, if you're looking for a job, there is a very high chance of getting a job. So, and many universities also, for example, my NUS also, they have career development departments. So they basically the employment cell or the job cell, we call it in India. So there is like a good more than 90% of the employment rate there. So if you're looking for a job and if you get enroll yourself, which is free of cost, if you enroll yourself in that, so there are good chances. Trust me, your email will be flooded with all these job opportunities. Sometimes you might think that enough now, I don't want to look at those job opportunities.
I think that sounds like a dream come true for many of the students looking to go abroad. So it's really positive.
If I'm not looking for, because I am studying, I'm doing my PhD, so I'm not looking for a job. My email is full of job opportunities. I don't even look at them right now because it's like I have to study right now. But yeah, it's lucrative. It's very lucrative. So again, even during this circuit breaker, we are having webinars. Those who cannot attend those career booster physically, we can't be present there. So they are organizing webinars for that.
Brilliant.
And even if
Brilliant.
you want support in writing your resume, CV, or to basically upgrade your resume, they have the different departments for that also. Universities have different department for that also, and it's again free of cost.
It's really wonderful to see how high the starting salaries are in Singapore, and that's an average that you mentioned there. But I think obviously being one of the main hub countries, there's a lot of banking and finance, maritime law, so many really well-paid jobs. I think that's a brilliant starting salary for many people in India. But within 3 years, people are on what is the equivalent of really about 1 CR a year, which is what people can only really dream of after maybe 3 decades of top-notch blue chip service in India, I think.
Exactly. And even after graduating here, you can apply for what's known as an LTVP, which is the long-term visiting pass. So which is a maximum of 1 year, which you can apply. You can stay here. It's not that just after graduation you have to leave the country because your visa expires. It's not that. You can apply for an LTVP and you can stay and keep looking for a job.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah,
Great.
so that's a very nice thing.
And how did you find your ease of going to Singapore, like in terms of the visa process for you? Did you find it easy? How was it?
Getting a visa here is as simple as going to a mall in India and picking up your grocery. It's as simple. So the visa, you get a student pass here. You get a student pass. The university, what they do is they basically call the ICA department, which is the Immigration and the Checkpoint Authority department in Singapore. They call the authorities to the campus and they do all the paperwork there itself. So you don't have to go to the authority and apply for a student pass. So personally, I got my student pass because I applied it online. I wanted beforehand. I didn't wait for the university campus thing. I had my student pass in 1 hour. I booked an appointment online. I was in India. I booked an appointment online. I made sure I was there on time, my appointment date, and I was on time, and I had my student pass within 1 hour. Can you believe that?
Brilliant. Well, I can't say it's as simple for the UK or the US, but of course we are there to help everybody. But that sounds like a very, very simple process.
Paperwork also required. Not much of paperwork also required.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably makes it more encouraging for people who are worried about that kind of thing.
Oh,
so thank you.
I told you, it's as simple as going to a grocery store and buying your grocery. Groceries also might take more than 1 hour.
Yeah, they probably do. Right. Okay. So, in terms of anything else, do you think you have? What do you think are the other opportunities there at the moment or later, as far as opportunities in terms of jobs are concerned? Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or financial assistance? And any sort of, we've covered, I guess, the job area, but in terms of financial and funding, how does the universities help there, or scholarships? Is there anything you want to tell us?
Yeah, so basically, whenever we say about like studying abroad or anything, so the first thing that comes to our mind is funding. Where we'll it's obviously funding is something that we all have to think about. So, but when we say that funding, it's firstly it depends your tuition fee and all. It depends on the courses that you enroll to, the level of course that you are going for, and the universities that you are going to. Obviously, it's a mix of all these things, but funding is, I think I just lost. Yeah. So tuition fee is basically, there are many scholarships that are available. So the scholarships are basically, there are many international student specific scholarships, as well as there are many international Indian students specific scholarships also that are available. You can also work part-time here, which is also very lucrative. So I think there is a 16-hour per week an international student can work part-time, and the part-time jobs are very easily available. There are, depending on the course that you go to, you can always the research courses, mostly the research courses, they have a monthly stipend also, which is also which is also around $1,000, $800 to $1,000 a month, Singapore dollars a month.
It's very significant, isn't it?
It's very significant. So they have those stipends also, and there are many scholarships. So I don't think so funding is a problem in Singapore, because the public university, the government provides many scholarships. The MOE, which is the Ministry of Education, they provide many scholarships to the international students here.
I think it sounds like a wonderful land of opportunity, Singapore. And in addition to that, I know we send many students a year to Singapore ourselves in Admissify. But in terms of actually the opportunities, I find it's very attractive for a lot of people that want to maintain links or business links with India as well. Being a global hub, there's so much business with other countries and neighboring Asian countries that I think it's like a very nice mix for people who want to retain some business links, or they have friends or family that manufacture certain products, or they're in import or export, or they're in any of those industries. Then Singapore sounds like a fantastic opportunity, or a fantastic destination.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, some might think that in the COVID, as we call it, the pre and the post-COVID era now. So basically, some might think that the opportunities might come down a little bit because of the COVID thing. But trust me, there is no stoppage to opportunities. Opportunities are basically in abundance. So if you think that Singapore is a hub country and there will be a lot of less dependence now on China. So think of that way, that we'll have better shipping routes and we'll have basically a more opportunities in Singapore when it comes to the supply chain management courses, or be it like a pandemic management courses, or be it like the e-commerce courses. Okay, again, people were not very familiar with online shopping. Even if the world opens up post-pandemic, post-COVID, people will still do online shopping because of its convenience. So the e-commerce will flourish, or basically the digital marketing will flourish. So there'll be the opportunities will be in abundance. You just have to grab that opportunity at the right time.
Absolutely, I completely agree. You know, I think we're both from, you know, sort of banking and finance hubs, London itself, and likewise Singapore. This is a time for rallying and recovery, isn't it? We're seeing it in the global markets as well. And as you say, I think it's very important to realize that China will stop becoming such a one-shop-fits-all kind of place for the rest of the world coming out of this. Many European countries, many American companies, the whole European Union, as well as you know, a lot of the North American treaties and treaty organizations are pulling all their dependence out of China. They say it's a very good opportunity for Malaysia, Korea, even India. But again, that's very important for countries like Singapore, which manages a lot of those global shipping routes, contracts, and so much more.
Yeah, so shipping is basically, again, as I said, that the shipping management courses, again, there are many universities that provide the shipping management courses here. So I think there'll be an increase in the opportunities rather than decrease in the opportunities.
Fantastic. So, yeah. I think that's very important for people to realize, particularly in these days when everyone's just scared, I think. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like
what being an international, there's a couple of sayings, isn't there? The early bird gets the worm. So it's if you're there at the right time, it really is, the opportunities are all the more.
All the more, exactly. The opportunities are all the more, and like the life is as normal as it could be. Like in Singapore, as I said, I've already received a mail from my university that the August, because after the summer break, the session starts in August here. So I've already received a mail from my university that the August session is starting as scheduled. So there is no, obviously they can't say with 100% surety, but if the situation is like this, and it's starting as normal as possible. The schools are reopening on the 2nd of June. For not like the schools are for they're starting in phases. For higher students, they are starting on the 2nd of June. In another 15 days, they'll open it for the secondary school, and in another 15 days, they'll open for the primary school. So it's as normal.
That shows that it's pretty much completely back to normal for the junior schools, like the actual schools. So colleges will be shortly after, it seems, very shortly after.
And all the applications, the admission applications are happening as like for the August intake, they are taking all the applications.
Well, that's brilliant. I think it's very important. Yeah, so thank you very much for that. That was going to be my final question to you, was going to be exactly what is happening over there in terms of intakes. And thank you very much for giving us that info, because again, I think a lot of people in India particularly are really worried about this upcoming intake, you know, August for Singapore, September for the UK. Everybody is very concerned. What is happening? What is going to happen? And obviously we must appreciate it's one of the main intakes, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. So there are applications already, but already in place, and all the universities are taking these applications, because June they are already starting the universities. So they another have 2 months to look into the situation and everything. But August is.
But people sometimes forget that they're already maintaining the students they have already, such as yourself. You're already a student over there currently. You know, the things are still going on. Study is still going on. It's just not as orthodox or as it would have been before this, but it's still going on. So it's never good to miss out on an opportunity because of a lack of knowledge. So I'm very thankful that you know, we have you to tell us about Singapore, and that we are able to use technology to bring this kind of information to those who are listening in India, and then and can make better informed decisions. I think it's valuable. It's you know, of such high importance, isn't it, really?
Yes. So like everything is back on track. I said, like, I don't feel any change in Singapore around me. So everything is back on now. Obviously there are restrictions, and it's good for us only if there are restrictions too. And here you can't just not follow the restrictions and not follow the rules. You can't do that. The moment you do that, either you are deported to your own country. There was one local who did not follow the rule, and that person has been, I think, that person has been charged, I think, 30 grams for not.
Oh, wow. That's
so
significant.
So there is no such thing, and nobody does that.
You get a fine for bringing chewing gum into the country as well. Chewing gum is illegal in Singapore.
So it's a no chewing gum country.
One of the intriguing things about Singapore.
Yeah, so it's a no. So again, see how things are here.
Disciplined,
but you get used to it. And again, as I say, being an international student, one might have a concern. Like the students might have concern that being an international, do I feel any like a kind of a discrimination against any COVID relief or something like that? Trust me when I say this, nothing of that has happened. On top of it, being an international student, they take more care. I feel that they are taking care of me in whatever way they can, obviously, but they are. So we have like financial aid packages, especially for an international student, that is being provided by the university to us.
That hospitality is brilliant, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think a lot of people are getting worried about that. In certain countries like Australia, I think I read an article that people are a little bit worried about how students were being treated there. But like I say, I mean, as far as Europe is concerned, and likewise Singapore, it sounds like it's just a really hospitable and very accommodating sort of climate at this time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very normal and a healthy life that we are living here right now.
Fantastic. I really thank you for giving us so much information. It's really nice to get a perspective from someone who's there, who's been a lecturer themselves, a student themselves, is a student at the same time, and is was a student, then a lecturer, and now a student again. It's really something that you can, you know, you have such vast experience in being able to see what both sides of the equation, and in terms of teaching and being a student, as well as both sides of other borders, like, you know, doing both of them in India and then doing both of them here. A lot of people don't appreciate that actually when you are a PhD student, you are also actually a teaching assistant. So at the same time, you're a teacher and a student at this current moment with your current course. It was the same in the UK. I remember when I was doing my engineering, we had PhD students who were teaching assistants, and they would do a lot of teaching. So in essence, as a student, a teaching assistant is essentially a teacher that you're a bit closer to, and that you can be more candid with.
So you never know if somebody comes to NUS in the next session. I might be your TA for econs. I might be your TA. So I
think they'd be fortunate. So if anybody has any questions about Singapore, wants to ask afterwards, I will be more than happy to take those questions. And of course, you can always ask the questions that you need, and we'll be more than happy to help with Singapore. As you can see, we have the very best of advisors and people who can actually speak from experience rather than people who speak in theory. So like we were discussing earlier, the benefits of an education when you learn practically are much higher than just theory. I think a lot of people in India are probably not qualified to be giving advice, but it's glad that we have some of the people there that are qualified. So thank you very much.
That's my pleasure. So I think everybody's heard a lot about Singapore. So now it's like again we can learn a little bit more about UK now. So as an expert in UK education yourself, so what do you think? You compare whatever that I have said. How will you compare the current climate with Singapore to UK? So can you just tell a little bit about your academic journey and how will you compare it with Singapore?
Yeah, sure, of course. I'm sure the guys who have been listening before are a bit bored of my story, but I'll keep it very, very concise. So I think as far as the UK is concerned at the moment with Singapore, if we compare the climate, I think we're very similar. I think we're probably maybe a week or two off of your where you are at the moment. So our schools are starting from the 1st of June. But some schools are starting, some other schools are not starting from the 1st of June. It's very localized. So it's up to the local authorities as well as to how they feel they want to lift up. But the government guidance is from Monday, we're entering the 3rd phase of lockdown easing. Some people look at death figures and things like that, but one must also really realize that in developed economies and very developed healthcare systems like the UK, there is a lot of reporting, right? So there's almost an abundance of data, whereas in other countries there's less data, like maybe in India, so they think the death numbers are lower. But in actual fact, there's many unreported cases of COVID, and there's therefore many unreported deaths due to COVID. Whereas over here, the private nursing homes are included, the whole NHS, which is the National Health Service, is all nationalized. So the data is abundant over here. So sometimes it feels like it's more, and we have a very aging population here as well. So it's a different demographic, but also at the same time, it's different data inputs, which make the situation look worse than it is. At the same time, the governments are very responsible here. So if it wasn't a consistently declining thing, we wouldn't be entering yet another phase of easing up lockdown. So as far as universities are concerned, many universities have now postponed their September intake, which normally starts at the end of September, to starting in October instead. So the intake is still going to go on, but the actual admission of the students when the course will start will now be in the middle of October instead of being at the end of September. So you can say maybe
20 days. Yeah, that's all.
Absolutely. Which I think is a responsible thing because, if that's what they see, they've got graphs and they've got things to extrapolate and predict the way things are. So yeah, September intake is on, and I think that's really encouraging for people. And it's better later than never. So October, like you said, 20 days is insignificant, really.
Yeah, it's not significant. It's just playing a little bit responsible. That's all. Yeah. And 20 days, I think it's not a very high price to pay.
No, absolutely, it's insignificant. And in these times, it's what is 20 days at the beginning of your course anyway? Most of the time, you're having so much fun, you don't realize where the first 20 days are.
For 60 days at home, I think 20 days is not much.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So okay, can you highlight a little bit more about the courses to study in UK and what are the best associated employment opportunities?
Absolutely. So, I'll say from my experience, I think particularly in the UK, there's such a wide variety of amalgamated courses and courses that you can do in multidisciplines. So I studied, I did my first bachelor's in engineering was in biomedical science engineering. And then I did business management. That was my BSc, Bachelor of Science. And then I did my master's in law. And I did that at the end, and I became a patent attorney. So I'm a chartered member, a member of the Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys. And a patent attorney, of course, is a lawyer who needs to also have knowledge of engineering so that they can protect those things by intellectual property that are made either, it could be something like a medicine, or like a Samsung iPhone or an iPhone, or it could be any piece of technology or thereabouts. So you need to have a wider field. So I think particularly as far as that's concerned, it gives you a wider ability to do multiple disciplines of courses within the same course, or move from one course to another course afterwards, from a master's to a PhD progression quite easily and interchangeably, Whereas I feel that within India, people normally get batched into streams. Like, are you of commerce? Are you of science? Or things like that. Whereas over here, you can really become a multi-tool of a human being in terms of your educational abilities. So I think that is very, very one of the brilliant things about studying in London, studying abroad, is that you can actually do that, and within your masters as well, is highly customizable. So you can change the name of your degree just by doing a couple of different modules, as well as you can have your degree can be called something generic, and you can specialize, because the actual modules that you get to choose are so broad. You only, like, let's say there's 8 modules, you only have 2 core modules, and the 6 are optional, and you can choose 6 from, sometimes more than 20 or 25 different modules. So you can really specialize in what you want to study, what you want to get out of it, so that you are the best trained person, best educated person for what it is that you actually want to do with your career afterwards, which I think is extremely important.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, there are many dual degree courses also that are available, so that you can just widen your horizon, and basically, so there are dual degree courses.
Become more attractive, and that is so attractive for companies afterwards as well. Even when I've done my patent attorney jobs, that when I send my CV for a company who's going to employ a lawyer, for example, in intellectual property, it's a fantastic thing that they see. Okay, he's done engineering, he's done law. That's what we want.
Exactly. So basically, there's a diversity.
Absolutely, absolutely, and likewise. I mean, I think people realize that the more difference you have within your field, sometimes you need that. So like in the patent attorney field, you need it, but maybe in banking and finance, you want somebody who's a Puritan, such as yourself, like you're purely economics. But when you're doing economics, that's what you want. You want somebody who's really gone up that field. But maybe in fields where you need to have multidiscipline, then you need to have a multidiscipline. So from my point of view, I think that's one of the really good things which aren't available in India, or isn't available so much so in India. That being said, I think also the practicality of the courses and the way that you have to apply your knowledge is very, very important. And you get tested on it, which is, you can't just memorize the book like they do in India, and then come and get good scores. If you memorize the book, we have some exams, sometimes when I'm counseling students as well, and I tell them that we were allowed to take books into our exams. They say, what? You are allowed to take a book into your exam? We're like, yeah, because the book won't help unless you know how to apply that knowledge.
Exactly. So we also have that concept of an open book exam here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's quite very weird. It's very weird.
When you realize that the book can't help you unless you know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So basically, okay, can you just tell us what are the a few best universities and the places to study?
Sorry, I just dropped something. No, yeah, of course. So look, as far as universities are in the UK, we have obviously the NUSs and the NTUs are like the flagship of Singapore, and there's some flagship universities or very renowned universities. Everybody obviously talks about the Oxford and the Cambridge of the UK, but we have a group called the Russell Group of Universities, which is a group of about 24 universities. It grows by 1 or 2 universities every few years, and they are sort of very, very well renowned and very high caliber universities, wherein sort of the employment opportunities for people really do go up a lot if you're a graduate from one of the Russell Group universities, one of the University of London universities. Oxbridge, we call it Oxbridge, which basically means Oxford and Cambridge, is obviously very, very hard to get into, but there are very, very many universities which again come in within a lot of the top global rankings. The prestige associated to UK universities is very high, and you were asking about postgraduate employment opportunities. So anybody who's going to be starting in September or starting in January, or basically graduating from September 2021 onwards in the UK, will have a 2-year post-study work permit. So that is obviously incredible. Until last year, that wasn't possible. People would have to only be able to stay for 4 months and up to 6 months, and that is very hard to get a job in. you can get the job, but then nobody wants to give you a job if you're only going to be there for a few months, right? So that whole situation is completely changed. So now London is open for the people who want to stay abroad and work abroad, and the opportunities are therefore then open for immigration as well, particularly with regards to the NHS, because there's the National Health Service. So anybody who's looking to go into any medical or public health management related field, anything like that, there are many opportunities available.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there are many internship opportunities also within your course, like during a summer break. You can always, because I think this is something which is lagging in India right now, is basically you can, and it's a good internship and it is very valued when after you graduate, these internships are valued a lot.
Absolutely. So there are some courses in the UK for masters which are integrated placement courses. That's brilliant, because you know what I mean. It's such a little trick, actually. This it ought to be shared with students. So what people can do is they can do a 2-year integrated placement course. So they get a 2-year visa for their course. So 1 year they're studying. The second year they're working, they're getting paid, and it's a guaranteed job from the university. And then after that, they can work for 2 years using their post-study work permit for 2 years. So it's like 3 years of paid work with a 1-year master's, which is massive. I mean, the ROI on that is brilliant, because the course in effect is going to be like what, £15,000, which is like maybe 12-13 lakh. And then the guaranteed 1 year, you make back that tuition fee in the guaranteed 1 year placement year, let alone 2 years of post-study, which is, and the, as you very kindly told us, sort of what payment remuneration people can expect in their first year of being a leaver, is very similar within the UK. It's about 30,000 pounds, which is around about 28 lakh per year. So, it's again a significant amount of money. Obviously, living is very expensive in the UK or in London, as it is. It's maybe a little bit less expensive. I know it is expensive in Singapore as well, but then outside of London is much cheaper than London. So there are places within the UK, maybe more the outskirts of London, where people can actually live for much cheaper than they would otherwise imagine.
Exactly.
So I think places also make a big difference. Obviously, Singapore is a main hub; it's very densely populated, and it's more of a concise place. Whereas the UK is, other than London, it is very vast, and obviously the size of London is very vast as well. So the closer to the center you go, the exponentially more expensive it gets. If you're on the outskirts of London, or you're in any of the other secondary cities, it's actually a very cheap place to live.
Yeah, I think in like UK also you can work part-time, and it's hassle-free working part-time also, just to basically manage your overhead or the miscellaneous expenses being a student.
Absolutely. I think thank you for touching upon that. That is a very important thing. You can work for 20 hours a week part-time in the UK while you're studying, and you can do that anywhere. So unlike the US, in the US you can only study part-time on campus, for example.
Okay.
Whereas in the UK, you can study anywhere you want part-time. And because of Brexit,
you can work anywhere you want, 16 hours.
Like. 16 hours. Oh, it's 16 hours? Okay. So in the UK, it's 20 hours. But again, outside of term time, you can work 40 hours. So during your summer holidays, if you don't want to go back to India, or your like Christmas holidays, if you want to work, you can work double the amount of time. But one of the other brilliant things is that the pay is about £10 an hour at the very minimum. So that's quite significant. It's about 1,000 rupees an hour. So again, if people calculate that they can afford to pay all their expenses almost just from their part-time work. On
just
top of that,
expenses is covered with that part-time money.
Exactly, yeah. And then, of course, you must have heard of Brexit, like Britain's exit out of the European Union. Sort of, like I say, is a union. But what that actually has done is it's increased a lot of the opportunities for part-time employment for international students, because a lot of the cheaper labor, or a lot of the these kind of part-time jobs that are available were done by Eastern Europeans. And because the visas aren't available for them anymore, there's not going to be unrestricted travel. A lot more of those jobs will become available for students and people who to whom those jobs are more suited.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So what is like basically for an Indian student, what can they expect if they come to UK? What can they expect their life would be in UK?
I think it's a brilliant country for Indian people. We have I think the 2% of the population in the UK is Indian, right? At the moment, our chancellor, which is the most important, one of the most important, like the India's finance minister, he's Indian, Rishi Sunak. He's married to. He's in fact married to the wife. Sorry, the daughter of the Infosys guy. I've forgotten his name now. One of the founders of Infosys. His daughter is married to Rishi Sunak, who's the Chancellor of the Exchequer in the UK, which is one of the most important positions after the Prime Minister. The Home Minister, I believe who is that in India at the moment? It's that Amit Shah, isn't it? I think it's Amit Shah. So she is again Indian. Her name is Priti Patel. The Secretary of State in the UK is Alok Sharma, again an Indian. So literally the cabinet is the two most powerful positions in the cabinet, the Home Ministry and the Chancellorship are both Indian, as well as the Secretary of State. So it is very, very hospitable. It's a very, very hospitable atmosphere for Indians. Indians do very, very well here. It has a lot of opportunities in general. There's a lot of Indian-dominated areas like Birmingham, Southall in London itself, Leicester. Even pockets in Newcastle and Manchester have a lot of Indians there. So I just think there's a lot of provisions. So if anybody's missing like home cooked dal or a really nice Indian meal or anything of that sort, everything is readily available.
Yeah, I think
believe it or not,
food is never a problem here.
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be. I think the Indian and the Chinese and the Malaysian demographic is very strong over there in Singapore, isn't it?
Yeah, and all the vegetarians out there, like I'm a vegetarian myself, so I only eat eggs. So like even if like I don't, if for a vegetarian the options are like humongous. Like being a biased student that I am. So the NUS has like 6 to 7 canteens, and everywhere you'll get Indian food, vegetarian food, coffee, tea. Tea is also very easily available. So like food is not a problem. Basically, Singapore was the one who started the concept of food courts.
Oh, fantastic! Right, okay. Do you get that karak chai in Singapore that they like to drink in India?
Yeah, and it's trust me, it's very tasty and it's very cheap.
Fantastic. So somebody's asked, what are the job opportunities in Singapore? I think we've covered that earlier, Souvik. So once we're finished with this, and any of the other questions, guys, that you've written in your comments, somebody's asked which university is the best for MSc in physics in the UK and or Singapore. Somebody's asked what is the best university for MBA in Canada. Guys, this session is more for us to talk about, for me and Ritika to talk about our experiences having studied a wide variety of different courses and different levels of our respective fields within Singapore and London itself. Your more specific questions we will answer next week in an interactive session. But for now, I thank you for your questions, and we will get to those. You can always download the app and ask us on the app so we can deal with your specific inquiries. This is more generic so that everybody listening to this afterwards, a lot of people listen to this afterwards, can get a bit of a generalized information on what the situation is here in London and there in Singapore with regards to what's happening with COVID and the upcoming intake and bits and pieces. So I thank you for your questions, but we will answer them specifically in later sessions, or of course you can download the app and you have the likes of myself and Ritika and all the other supremely good counselors, and I'm going to be biased here as well. Supremely well profiled people that can really advise you in an experienced manner. So that's that.
So I
No,
think
go
what
ahead.
like the same thing we like what will be what do you think are the opportunities in the post-COVID world in UK and like abroad? So if you can highlight a little bit on that.
Fantastic. I actually really love that question. That is my I literally think, and I've said this to people before, and Warren Buffett, as you know, most of us know who Warren Buffett is. He's one of the richest men in the world, and one of the most intelligent. Thank you, Madhuka. One of the most intelligent investors, and he always says, when others are fearful, be brave, and when others are brave, be fearful. And it is very important to get out of that sheep mentality. I think in India they say bear jal mentality. It's very important to not be one of the sheep, not be one of the followers, but one of the leaders, because fortune does favor the brave. And I feel at this time, look at the opportunities. There are many opportunities coming out of COVID, and I don't mean that to sound. Obviously, there's many people who have unfortunately died, and it's many people are suffering because of this. But I think it's important not to be fearful and not look at the doom and gloom side of things, but to instead look at what is the opportunities that are going to be here coming out of it. Is that glass half full mentality rather than the glass half empty mentality? So if I was to give a UK specific answer to that question, I think anybody coming into the sort of medical related field. So anybody who wants to become a doctor, who wants to become a dentist, who wants to become a nurse, who wants to do public health management, wants to study international law, wants to study global supply chain management. I think these courses are going to be the courses of the future. I can see it now, because the global supply chain is going to change. Therefore, the management will change. Again, that is one of the great opportunities of Singapore, I would say as well.
Same.
Aside from London and Singapore, I don't think there are such two major finance hub cities, and particularly Singapore for global supply chain management in particular as well. But the NHS, there's a specific NHS visa that is going to be a fast-track visa and a longer visa. So the 2-year post-study that everybody will get, it'll probably be even more for the NHS specific visa, and then they'll probably be able to apply for citizenship as well. So I think anybody, and if somebody says, well, I'm not from a science background, I'm more from a management background, then you can do public health management. So there's so many opportunities, but you need to have the right advice, and the people who know how to advise you from the feet on the ground, like you're the feet on the ground in Singapore, I'm the feet on the ground in London. We have other counselors who are the feet on the ground in Germany and etc. And you really get a sense of what the vibe is when you're here, right? And I think COVID has really taught us that, because I could read an article about Singapore, but I will have no idea of what the actual situation is. And while I'm speaking to you, it's giving me so much confidence. I'm like, I could just take a flight and go to Singapore tomorrow. I'm not scared of it, right? And likewise, when we have a lack of information or we're just reading media outlets, I think India has been acknowledged within many publications as being the #1 country for fake news. So there are so many. There's so many fake news articles and people really getting misled by people that it's important to filter out the facts from the fiction. And that's not a complaint about India, but I just think that anybody is now making videos about news. And I think news is something that people believe. So the onus of responsibility is very high on what kind of the quality of that information that people put out there. So thank you very much, Ankur. Thank you. So we're getting some positive comments about what we've been sharing with people. So that's very nice. That's very kind of you. So that is what I would say. I would say data as well, actually. I think data analytics, software in software engineering, I think that is so important. Nowadays, we're really going to understand. So they're talking about contact tracing and tracing, where people have moved. In particular with this, not just that movement data, contact tracing, but as well the hospital data, the science data behind everything. That data is going to be so much more prevalent, so much more important to the decisions that are made as a society upon us by a government, right? So again, any courses in data management, in data analytics, and newer fields will come up, and that will be so highly coveted and so highly employable afterwards. So like I say, data, anything to do with data, global supply chain management, anything to do with global supply chain or supply chains as a whole, international maritime law, I would say, is another one, or international commercial law is another one in the legal field. In the medical field, I would say anything and everything now, including public health management, if you're not from a medical field, is probably another brilliant course. And I think those are going to be massively lucrative and successful opportunities coming out of this.
Yeah, I think that is right. So because even in like medical, the research part, they basically they need more researchers in, especially in the medicine. They need more researchers there. So I think the opportunities are unlimited. You just, as I said earlier, you just have to grab it at the right time. Just
I studied biomedical engineering. I usually used to find it boring, but now I realize it actually is probably a very employable field in itself.
It's actually one of the most, and as you said, data analytics. So basically, the countries like I'm sure UK and Singapore, the government has been so transparent in basically mentioning the number of cases per day. So like we get a message from the government every day, and even if the cases have spiked up to its maximum, they never hid it. So we used to get each and every detail of specific cases. Also, the community cases are this much, the work pass holders are this much cases, the international students are this much cases. So basically, we get a breakdown also each and every. So there has been a transparency. So I think
you wouldn't believe. I think that's such an important point that you've hit upon. Actually, a lot of people seem to think that the situation is really bad in the UK, for example. I can just give that example because I've heard my friends in India or my our staff all over the country, just the people that I'm in contact with in India, and there's a lot of people. Is it okay over there in the UK? I'm like, this life is normal. I'm walking down the street, but people are so courteous. If you're walking like opposite on the road and somebody's coming in the opposite direction, people just sort of give each other 2 meters because that's the guidance. They give each other 2 meters from in advance and say thank you, hello. People are more friendly now. People are positive, but people are very courteous about maintaining a social distance. Life goes on. I've seen more people in the parks now than I've ever seen, but everybody's just being careful and considerate of each other.
You just have to be more careful. That's all.
Exactly. People sometimes get scared of the high death figure over here, but they don't appreciate that actually it's a completely transparent figure. There's no cases that are hidden, and there's so much testing that we know we have the data to put out there, as well as a very aging population. So, an aging population is generally going to be it's more at risk. But in countries like maybe even China, we don't know what the actual situation is there because it could be hidden. And in India, there's not the provisions for the amount of testing that we can do here, let alone a lot of people that probably don't want to go to hospital or don't get to hospital or just recover without ever anything happening. It's a much younger population as well if you sort of take that into consideration. So I think it's funny because I give one example of this. It's just a funny example that I like to give sometimes. When I'm in Delhi, I think Delhi's okay. And when I go to Bombay, people are like, you came from London and you went to Delhi? Delhi's so dangerous. Like, people from Bombay are so scared of Delhi. So it's about, but when you're in Delhi, you're not scared of it, right? So you're just like, this is normal. So I think it's a lot of fear of the unknown. And I think it's very important to address that, because fear of the unknown is ridiculous if it remains unknown. And that's why I think our sessions are very important.
Worse than the fear itself. The fear of the unknown is worse than the fear itself.
Absolutely, because it could be it's the devil unknown, isn't it? Which is the worst.
Better to have a known devil.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can take him out. but otherwise no. Yeah, I think it's very, very important. And I think again, I think it's very important for us to share the actual situation on the ground, so that people over there can actually make informed decisions, which I think is very lacking at the moment.
So I think we've
covered a lot of stuff. And I just wanted to yeah, I think we'll close now because we've gone over the allocated hour. But again, you know, I think in the interest of the students and the people listening to us, I think it's very important. So I'm glad that I thank you very, very much for attending this week. And we'll have another session somewhere down the line. If you'll be so kind.
Always would love to do that.
Thank you very much. You're part of the Admissify family, and we're very, very glad to have you.
I'm very proud of the Admissify family.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's our honor and our privilege. So we're very thankful to have you and the information you've given us, and of course we'll keep everybody informed weekly again with the updates from London, Singapore, and down the line from Germany and elsewhere. Just so that everybody over there, we give everybody in India the actual opportunities to make a very good informed decision. Of course, everybody listening who's a regular from the Admissify side, any information that you would like, anything that you want, download the app. You know, we're very active on there. You can ask on Facebook, on the page itself. You can ask the messenger. We have our staff members. They're all working from home in safe conditions, and they're always there to answer any questions you have. Ask away. Don't be scared. No question is a stupid question. No question is ever a stupid question, but in these times, in particular, no question is a silly question. So be confident, ask away, and you have the likes of us backing you up. So we'll keep you updated with development. And yeah, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for listening. Fast forward the bits when you listen to it afterwards if we have bored you at any point, but I'm only joking. That would be me, not the bigger. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahul, for having me here. Thank you, team Admissify.
It was our privilege and our pleasure. So thank you very much, and we'll see you guys shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.